What's going on, YouTube world? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in again. I'm Dusty. This is the Shred Academy. If you're like me and mountain biking is an outlet for you, you might be putting your bike through a lot of torment. And after a while, you might start to ask yourself, does it feel and sound like you're riding a shopping cart? There's a few things that we can do between major service intervals to make sure our bike is running as best as possible at that current time. I like to call that a critical bolt check. It doesn't take long. You can check the bike front to back, and that's what we're gonna do today. So let's get to checking this bike over. We're gonna start off by saying that all bikes are different. You might have different tool needs to make sure that different bolts are tightened. Every mountain biker should have a multi-tool, and that's going to come with everything you need to basically do a critical bolt check, except for possibly an 8 or a 10 millimeter, which you might need for your bigger linkage pieces and your cranks. Now, the tools that might be on there that you might need would be for Allen wrenches, a 4 millimeter, 5 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 8, and a 10. You also may need a Torx, which is a T25. Some people will be scared to put a wrench to their bike because they don't want to, for one, strip anything or tighten anything too tight, which is a good concern to have. But with a little bit of knowledge, you can put a wrench to your bike without worry of destroying anything. The first thing I'm going to recommend is that you get a torque wrench, an adjustable torque wrench. That's going to allow you to tighten your bolts to the recommended torque in Newton meters or foot-pounds so you don't over-tighten anything. The second piece of advice I'm going to give you is make sure that the wrench is fully inserted into the bolt before you turn. Sometimes and too often people will be in a rush and not insert the wrench all the way, and they'll strip out the hole. My last piece of advice is there is no need ever for somebody to be wrenching on their bike and putting their whole weight behind anything. If you see a friend doing that to their bike, let them know, hey, you don't need to go that tight. And if you see a mechanic doing that to your bike, wrenching on something, maybe get a different mechanic. So now that we've got our baseline and the tools that we're gonna need, let's get to checking this bike over. First thing we're gonna do is check to make sure that our wheels are inserted and tightened down into the dropouts correctly. Now, you don't need a stand to do this. You can do this with your bike kind of just being held up by you, but if you have a stand, it works even better. So you take your hand, put it on your stem, and then you can just move your wheel side to side. If you feel any play, that's an indication, one, to check your axle, and if that's tight, then your bearings in your wheel are starting to go, and you'll need to get those replaced quickly. So we'll get our front done. Okay, nice and tight. And we'll grab the back. Nice and tight. I can even grab the seat stay. Test like that. We can test at multiple locations. Everything is tight there. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna check our headset to make sure that it's tight. Checking your headset is pretty simple. What you're gonna need to do is pull your front brake lever, take your opposite hand, and cover the top of your headset cap down there, okay? And you don't wanna be gripping it. Literally just set your hand on it. And then we're gonna be rocking back and forth lightly. Now, some people might feel a slight knock, and that's gonna be your brake pads. Make sure that that's not what you're feeling. Rock back and forth. You can also investigate and rock back and forth, and if you can see your headset moving, then you'll know that you need to adjust your headset, which is pretty simple, and we'll do that like this. Now, if you do find that your headset is loose, it's a really quick adjustment, so let's take you through it. First thing you're going to want to do, throw your leg over top of that bike. First thing we're going to do, once we're mounted over top of our bike, is loosen all of the headset bolts. So our top cap bolt, and then both of our stem bolts. Loosen those guys all the way up. Move your bar around, you'll feel it get really loose. Okay, resetting your headset. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tighten our top cap. Sometimes I like to pick up the fork just to help set everything in. Now, here is the tricky part. You're not trying to just turn until it stops. Turn until that you feel the resistance, and then back off like an eighth of a turn. Then what you're going to want to do is redo your whole testing method. Hand on the front brake, hand on the headset, and rock back and forth. If you feel like it's tight, you can move on to the next step. Align your bars with your front tire and tighten down your stem. Alternate from side to side. Now, as you're alternating and your stem is getting tighter, this is where having a torque wrench is going to become super handy if you don't want to have any guesswork or you're not seasoned at this. And I'm assuming if you're watching this, maybe you're not too seasoned. If you don't have a torque wrench, let me give you my guide on how I set my torques with my fingers. If you don't have a torque wrench and you're tightening your headset, most headsets are 5 Newton meters. And 5 Newton meters, I like to use one finger and pull until you can see a little bit of resistance or bend in the wrench. And then we'll switch to the other side. Down, same thing, finger. And then we'll go and check one more time. Make sure that your wrench is inserted all the way. Finger, nice and tight. Now I'm not gripping and pulling harder because I could and turn it more. But we don't want to wear out the threads, and we just want things to be tight enough to where that if we crash, they might move and not break. Now that we've got our headset all checked and adjusted, we can go to check the rest of the bolts, which is going to be a pretty quick task. And we'll start with our handlebars and we'll work our way back towards the rest of the bike. Again, make sure that you're inserting the wrench all the way before you twist. Go through and we'll tighten. Once we know our handlebars are tight, we can go and check the axles. Now that our axles are nice and tight, we're going to make sure that our shock is tight. And make sure that you're not over tightening these. A lot of these have bushings in them, and you don't want to over tighten them. You're just making sure that they're tight. Now that we know our shock bolts are tight, we're going to go ahead and check our linkage. Before we check our linkage, let me quickly show you how you can check to see if you might have any loose linkage or blown bearings. A good way to check to see if your linkage is loose, again, is going to be with a light touch. Grab your seat post and just lift slightly and feel for any knocking or any play. If your bike just picks right up off the ground, you probably don't have any loose linkage and you can just go right on to checking them. But if you do hear some knocking, then it's time to go look for that loose link. The best way to do that is to, again, grab your seat collar here and pick up slowly and start to feel for the loose link. When you hit it, you'll know it. You'll feel that play between the frame and the bolt. Kind of the same idea as the headset. Now, if you do have a loose link and you track it down, hit your bolt, tighten it back up, and then you can check your torque. Most bolts will have a torque reading on the side. This one's 22 Newton meters. Now again, I don't have a torque wrench with me. So 22, it's over 10. About 20, I use 2 fingers. So I'm gonna tighten. And then with 2 fingers, once I start to see that little bit of resistance and almost bend in the Allen key, I'm done. I'm not gonna put the Allen key back in, take my whole hand and just wrench it tight. That's gonna tighten down against those bearings and it's gonna wear out faster. And that's not what we want. We want our bike to last. So listening to those Newton meters, super important. Now that we've got our loose link all tightened up, we can go around and check the rest of our links. Never forget your derailleur. Sometimes people will be like, my shifting's off. And it's just the derailleur being loose. So always make sure to check that guy out. And finally, we'll do our cranks. Notice how I'm grabbing the opposite crank than one I'm cranking on. And then I'm gonna switch. Try to not show you guys my butt. Although someday maybe some girl will think it's cute. And we'll make sure that your stand is not gonna fall apart. And we'll check the other one. And lastly, I'm gonna check my motor mounts. Don't want my motor coming loose. Well guys, that's gonna do it. That's how to do a critical bolt check on your bike and as well reset your headset. I hope you enjoyed the content. I hope you can keep your bike running smoothly in between major service intervals. If you did enjoy this content, make sure to leave a comment. Let me know. If you'd like to support the channel, we've got several ways. I'll break it down quickly. Patreon, $5, $10, or $15 a month. $5 a month is only 37 cents a day, guys. It may not sound like a lot to you, but if I can hit 150 Patreons, it makes my life so much easier. Second thing, you can leave me a PayPal tip. Some content creators are doing buy me a beer. I don't want you to buy me beer. Buy me a gallon or 2 of gas. Help me get to the next location so I can keep creating content with new and exciting features. Lastly, go buy some merch. I've got a limited supply. Go get it gone. That all again goes to me getting gas, paying my bills, getting to new locations to do more content. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel in any way that you can. Make sure to like, share with your friends, make sure you subscribe, and make sure they subscribe. If I don't see you till the next video, make sure that you ride hard, ride safe, be kind to everybody. We're all in this together. Now, if you see me on the trail, please come say hello. I'd love to shoot the shenanigans with you and hear about why you love mountain biking and maybe about your local trail if that's where we're at. But until that time, guys, take it easy.